gift of God. Jesus living inside you is not a collectible item. Once you have it, you will always have it. He never runs out. I wanted to share with you an experience I had years ago while I was deployed in the Air Force, while talking with one of my subordinates. So what happened is I had a conversation with my subordinate. He was very frustrated with the people that we worked around and worked with. So we had a conversation, and it really just, the end result was very interesting. I'll just put it that way. We were talking about the daily stupidity of the situations with other people, and this was a job conversation, so the problems with people stemmed from the job working with others. And some of the things that we discussed were people being unmotivated or lazy, or not using common sense to take care of business or solve problems and things like that. And so I'm reading as I'm talking here from something I wrote about this experience years ago. The conversation was full of frustrated statements. I agreed with him about the frustration with people being lazy and things like that, all the things that he was frustrated with. But I didn't feel the same about the scenario that the way he felt. So he basically felt like there's nothing you could do about it. You're just stuck dealing with these people that make your job harder, make you work harder, things like that. And I felt that an individual can have some influence, maybe change some of the things that those people do or how they think about participating and pulling their weight and things like that. And so we were split on that. He had a certain view that there's nothing you could do, there's no coaching and involvement that was worth your time to help these people change and become less frustrating for you yourself. And I took the opposite approach in thinking that you can have an influence, you can do something, things can get better. And while we were having this conversation, I received a vision, something I'd never seen before, or never had a thought like this cross my mind before. But the vision was of people walking in the streets, being between buildings, working, walking, doing. They were just out and about, and the scene was like maybe a downtown shopping area or something where you would see lots of people walking. They were walking as if there was no mud, but I could see the mud, and I could tell the ones that were deeper in the mud and had a harder time getting around. They seemed accustomed to it, as if they didn't know any better. They just continued to struggle to move around. And some of them, I could see they weren't near as deep in the mud, and I could tell that they had boots on, like galoshes or mountain boots or some other kind of boot that helped in the scenario, in the terrain, in the mud. So the others were so deep in the mud that I couldn't tell if they had boots on or not. They were just really wading down deep in the mud. So the message from all of that is that we're all drudging through the mud above our knees, all of us, everybody. This is happening to us all. We are in the same situation. All right, a word with the vision. As I talked with my friend and had this vision, I told him about the vision. I began to explain what I thought it meant in my own words. Then two words came to me as I explained the meaning of the vision: salt and light. I thought to myself, man, didn't Jesus say salt and light? But I didn't know for sure. This was, like I said, years ago when this took place. I went on to express, not in these exact words, that we are the salt of the world. Without us, there would be no flavor. And if we are the light, we need to shine for those to see. And that is our role in changing people. So these two words that just came to me while talking about the vision I'd seen. This was my interpretation of it. I'm not sure if it was said, what I said to him, it made sense exactly, but it made sense to me. I wasn't even sure if what I had said made sense legitimately, if it was right. But when I got back to my room, I started looking through my Bible for the words salt and light. What I found surprised me. So I know this was God because I didn't understand what I had told him and where it had come from. But I knew I'd heard salt and light. As a matter of fact, I didn't really know if it was salt and light or salt and life. So places where I found this, Jesus said in Matthew, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is henceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of men. You are the salt of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it gives light unto all that enter into the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." Okay, those are all scriptures that I found in Matthew regarding salt and light. In Luke, Jesus said, "Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its saltness, wherewith will you season it? Have salt in yourselves, and have peace one with another." All right, in the book of John, Jesus said, "Salt is good, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land, nor yet for the dunghill. But men cast it out. He that has ears to hear, let him hear." Paul writes in his letter to the church in Colossus, "Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer every man." In Ephesians, "Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers." I guess I took that from the one in Colossians, "Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt." This is a parallel verse to that in Ephesians. "Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers." All right, so if you have my friend's perspective, there's nothing that can be done. Nothing will be done, first of all, because you'll avoid it and walk away. But at the same time, Jesus says to be the salt and the light. So if Jesus is in you, his light is in you, you are supposed to be seasoned and ready. So why would you take this gift of God that Jesus is in you and hide it away and collect it for yourself? And the reason why I'm talking about this fresh today is I'm going to use a scenario to highlight this a little bit better. So there is another young child who my daughter recently met, and this is the kind of child that once they meet you, they feel like that's just like all access pass. They can show up anytime and you'll be ready to play and want to hang out. And so for my daughter, she's an introvert. She likes to have quiet time and do things in her own way. This person showing up, knocking on the door, asking if she's home, is like a nightmare. Like, I don't ever want to see this person again, right? And so the girl comes over, knocks on the door. My daughter is like, tell her I'm not here, right? And I know a lot of adults will still do this too. Tell them I'm not here. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to lie to her and say you're not here, but I will either have you go to the door and say you don't want to play right now, or I can go and tell her that you're busy or whatever, that you're not interested in coming outside. But the point is, aside from that scenario, I'm trying to explain to my daughter that because she's a believer, she may be throwing away a chance to tell someone about God by being frustrated with this girl. So I explained to my daughter that you can interact with the girl but make it what you want. So if you're trying to tell her about God and she doesn't want to hear about God, well, guess what? She's going to walk away and leave, and she's not going to come back to your door because you're always talking about God. But if she is someone who needs God and God is purposefully sending her to you and you don't go out there, then you miss that opportunity. But if she is coming to you and she's ready to receive and has nowhere else to receive God, then you're the one. You're the person who's going to bring Christ to this girl and let him live inside of her. Anyway, so I had this conversation with my daughter. These were my thoughts. Don't know if it was conveyed very well. Sat back down, doing my own thing, got on my computer, and realized salt and light. I've had this conversation with someone else in the past. Yeah, it was a grown-up. Yes, it was on the job, and it was about some frustration with people and how they're lazy and things like that. But my daughter is having this situation where she doesn't want to be around this person, same as my subordinate didn't want to be around the people that he worked with. So I pulled this up, I read through it a little bit, and I was like, oh, wow. So I let my daughter read it. She read the whole thing, and she said, I don't get it. Which was, for me, is a little frustrating because I sat quietly and waited while she read it. But she said, I don't get it. And I tried to explain to her basically what I've already said by reading it through for this video. Still seemed as if she didn't really get it, but she goes and pulls out a pickle jar from the fridge. And my daughter really loves pickles. So what happens is when we get pickles, they last about half a day and the whole jar will be gone. So I looked over, I saw the pickle jar out, realized that she was leaning over the sink eating a pickle so it doesn't drip on the floor. And I thought the jar was either empty or had very few left, like maybe one pickle. So I said, hey, put the jar away. You've had enough pickles, because she just opened the jar yesterday and no one else was going to get a pickle. So I said, hey, don't do that. Put the jar away. You've had enough pickles. And then my wife explained that this pickle jar was a gift. It was given to my daughter specifically because she likes pickles. And I said, oh, well, in that case, be my guest. Eat the rest of the pickles. Make sure they're all eaten, whatever. That's your pickle jar. But then it was like God said to me, my gift is not like other gifts. When someone receives a gift, like a pickle jar, it's yours. You eat all the pickles. It belongs to you. You have delight in eating the pickles. You eat the pickles. But God's gift of having Jesus inside of you is not to be saved and given to yourself and having enjoyed that jar of pickles, right? God's gift of Christ and salvation is not for you to hoard up, to box up, treasure, and put away. His is like the salt and light. It is to be put on the hilltop and shined for everyone else to see. The gift of God is to take this gift and share it. Now, if my daughter had taken the pickles and busted out the pickles and given everybody one, her moment of happiness in this gift would have only lasted for a small time, and she probably would have regretted at some point given most of it to other people. But in Christ, when you share your pickle of Christ, you get the benefit. He never runs out. His gift never ends. So every time you have a conversation about God with another person, you partake in the eating of this gift. You get a pickle every time you share a pickle. And the next time you meet somebody, your jar of pickles is full again, and you get to eat another pickle while sharing with another person. And even then, I talked to my daughter a little bit about that, and it almost sounded like she wasn't, it was cool, Dad, but it wasn't effective enough. In my mind, and I'm going everywhere now. I'm going to eat pickles with everyone I know. I'm going to just talk about God and enjoy these pickles, right? Anyhow, she goes back upstairs and sits down next to the TV area. She has her video game console. And then it hit me. This is a very similar thing when she receives a disc to put in that console and play a game. It's enjoyable to her. She's an introvert. She can sit by herself and do that. But at some point, after receiving a new game, this awesome gift of enjoyment, she always, without fail, she will at some point put the controller down and seek someone. Me, my wife, my other daughter, anyone that's near, and say, come here and look at this. Look what level I'm on. This is the story about this game. This is happening. Look, sit down, look. Let me show you. And she will proceed then in excitement about this video game to tell someone else. Check it out. And the minute that she can see that this other person is somewhat interested, or even a small amount excited about this video game, something new happens. She picks up the other remote and hands it to them and says, come on, play this with me. Right? Because in this case, it's not a jar of pickles. It's a gift that, while it's enjoyable for me, it's even more enjoyable. And the benefit and blessing of this gift is not to sit and indulge by myself, but to share this gift with someone else. And so, when that hit me, after my daughter left and went and sat down, I said, this is it. This is how my daughter needs to perceive the gift of God. Is like a video game. I mean, imagine you've got a game, and you know this is the reality, that at a certain point, getting to know the game, you want to show someone else what you know now. You want them to be involved. You want them to play the game with you. You want to have partakers in the same thing that you're partaking in. But what if you received this game, and for a whole week, no one was there? That the only thing you could do with this game is play it by yourself. And I asked my daughter, how many days do you think in that 7-day period would you go playing this game and still be enjoying it without wanting to invite someone else? And her honest answer was, she said, probably about 2 days. So what's the situation? If you got this gift, you had it for 2 days and you were super excited to share it with somebody, and no one came for 6 months. The game, at some point in that 6 months, would just be set aside and collect dust with the other games, because it's only so enjoyable alone. And God is trying to express to me, and so that I can share with my daughter and share with you now, the gift of God. Jesus living inside you is not a collectible item. Once you have it, you will always have it. He never runs out. But this thing, wants to treat that gift like every other gift. Once that jar of pickles is in my possession, no one touches my pickles. These are my pickles, right? I want Jesus for me. I don't want to share him with anybody. It's what happens here. Whether anyone is really conscious of that or not, now you should be. That's the point. Now you should be. The real blessing of having Jesus inside you, in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, connected with your spirit, is to go out and share him with other people. Wow. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. I mean, years ago when I had this encounter with my subordinate and the salt and light thing came up, I was fresh and new. The whole idea was new to me. I just did what I could at the time to try and understand it. And even then, until today, it never came to light the way it did, where this whole thing is a gift.